Good morning, everybody. Hope you're keeping well. Just a reminder that tomorrow night we plan to make contact with Steve. Hopefully, nothing will get in the way of that this week, and have a conversation with Steve in Alabama about how things are going there, and just talking over issues to do with COVID and everything that they've been experiencing in the last year. Also, just a reminder that we are in Holy Week, Monday to Thursday of next week. We are meeting together with the members of 3 other congregations in our area, Conleague, Lisnabreen and St Andrews, on Zoom, and we're going to have prayer time together through Holy Week, Monday to Thursday from 7:30. I've just posted the meeting ID and so on for that on the Facebook page, and we'll put it on the WhatsApp group as well. And if you would like to join us any of those evenings or all of those evenings for prayer, please do use the link and join us for that. We would love to see you. And then a reminder again that we are opening up for in-person worship on Good Friday evening, 7:30, and then Easter Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and live streaming will continue as well. And details of all of that are in a letter that elders are delivering at the moment. We're going to read from Mark chapter 14 and verse 43. And as we read this, the disciples are beginning to recognize, you can almost hear the sound of the penny dropping, that actually it is really happening. What Jesus said would happen is really happening. So Mark 14, verse 43. And immediately, while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard." When he came, he went up to him at once and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. And they laid hands on him and seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Jesus said to them, "Have you come out as against a robber with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But let the scriptures be fulfilled." And they all left him and fled. And a young man followed him with nothing but a linen cloth about his body, and they seized him, but he left the linen cloth and ran away naked. You see, throughout the journey to Jerusalem, you can just picture the disciples talking with one another as Jesus talks about these things that are going to happen to him, those 3 times when he tells them what's going to happen. And they say to each other, does he really mean this? Is he really serious about this? Betrayal, deliverance to the Gentiles, rejection, violence, death, and resurrection. Can he really be serious? Is this really the way he plans to go? Surely not. Surely it can't be. But now, in this moment, it's clear that this is exactly what he meant. He really did mean what he said when he talked about deliverance and rejection and violence and death and betrayal. None of the disciples has understood his kingdom, and none of his enemies have understood it either. If they had understood the nature of Jesus' kingdom, they would have seen and known that it was totally unnecessary, complete overkill, to arm themselves with swords and clubs and get a huge gang together to come and to arrest Jesus. There had never been a violent plot from Jesus. There had never been an attempt to overthrow either the religious authorities or the pagan Roman authorities. That had never been part of the plan. But it's not just his enemies who don't get the kingdom, it's his friends as well. Judas certainly doesn't get the kingdom. There are all kinds of speculations that go on as to what Judas's motives were for betrayal. Was it purely financial? Was it disappointment in Jesus? What was it? Was it an attempt to force Jesus' hand? We don't know what went through his mind, what his thought process was, but one thing is for sure. He didn't get the kingdom, didn't understand it, didn't realize what the reality was. And the disciple with the sword, who other gospel writers identify as Peter, also still didn't get it. He thought violence might be the way forward. And when Jesus doesn't take the hint, doesn't take the cue from the violent act with the sword, it all begins to dawn on them. He really does mean to be arrested and taken away. No one in that crowd that night, apart from Jesus, is aware of the significance of these events. And it's there in Jesus' last words in the passage, let Scripture be fulfilled. That's what's going on here. Scripture is being fulfilled. The salvation history that had begun ages past as Abraham was called out of Ur, that salvation history is reaching its peak at these moments in this garden, and no one apart from Jesus understands it. For those around Jesus, for his friends, this is the signal that it's all over. That everything has fallen apart, and they run, just as he said they would. Just a couple of hours before, they flee. Everything seems to fall apart. Wickedness and evil seems to be in charge of what's going on. But the reality is that in the midst of it all, God's plans are working out. And it's good to be reminded that in the midst of dark times and evil times and difficult times and the most horrendous of times, God's plans still work out. J.C. Ryle comments on that, and comments on it in a wonderful way when he says this: let us rest our souls on the thought that all around us is ordered and overruled by God's almighty wisdom. The course of this world may often be contrary to our wishes. The position of the church may often be very unlike what we desire. The wickedness of worldly men and the inconsistencies of believers may often afflict our souls. But there is a hand above us, moving the vast machine of this universe and making all things work together for his glory. The Scriptures are being yearly fulfilled. Not one jot or tittle in them shall ever fail to be accomplished. The kings of the earth may counsel together, and the rulers of the nations may set themselves against Christ. But the resurrection morning shall prove that even at the darkest time, all things were being done according to the will of God. The resurrection morning shall prove that even at the darkest time, all things were being done according to the will of God. We don't see the whole picture yet, just as they didn't see the whole picture then, but one day we will. And we will see God's purposes in all that has been going on, and we will glorify him. And we look forward to that morning, and we're given a foretaste of it on Easter morning, which we're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks. God bless.